It's New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful Fresno, California. We're down in the Tower District. That's the heart of Fresno, and Fresno being the heart of the Central Valley, and the Central Valley being the heart of California. I'm here to tell you there's a lot of heart here going on, and I'm glad to be here with you today. Welcome to the show. You know, it's a great day. It was a great day when I declared it so this morning, and I hope for each and every one of you that you made that same declaration. But some days, truth be told, that greatness seems to come with a lot of chaos. It's kind of like what I've got going on in front of me today. But, you know, we're going to talk about that, and hopefully out of chaos we'll come to a little bit of order. You know, it's a powerful understanding, this concept of religious science, science of mind and spirit. But it's a place that we have to get to within our not just our intellect, but with our entire beingness. And sometimes that journey can be a little difficult, sometimes a little daunting for some people, sometimes even possibly scary, oftentimes filled with doubt. But for those who persevere, for those that make a commitment and then follow through, the rewards are many and the blessings are full. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't experience things in our life that we would rather not experience, because in truth, life comes at us at the speed of life, and sometimes those things are not the most wonderful or positive things that we would like to experience, but they come nonetheless. And what do we do? You know, where do we sit? How do we respond? It's been a couple years, but I was putting up a blog on the internet, and I happened to write something based on a book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, I think is his name. It's been a while, but anyway, I got a reply from someone that just really was very angry and upset about the idea that I would tell people that they could use the consciousness of mind and the consciousness of giving, and that they could create abundance for themselves, that really in reality what it was nothing more than a way to separate someone from their finances. And I was a little taken back, but you know, everybody's entitled to their own beliefs, and that was this individual's belief. I found out later on that this particular individual, and this is what was really kind of an eye-opener for me, this particular individual happened to be a minister of religious science, who actually had a church or a center, whatever you want to call it, back in the day, and that one day, because things financially weren't going so well, got up, walked out, and left the church. Well, it kind of gave me a little bit of light on the subject of, you know, the who and the what, but the why is what really kind of tickled the back of my mind. You know, we go through life, and life happens. So somewhere along the way, we see the movie The Secret, or What the Bleep, or who knows what. We show up at a New Thought Center or church somewhere, and they start telling us these wonderful things about the concept of life being a life that should be lived in an expression of goodness, godness, abundance, experience all sorts of good things in our life. And we look at our life and go, man, that's not where I'm at, you know. And truth be told, I was at that place at some time in my life. There are still parts of my life that, truth be told, I'm still there, I guess. But I'm working on it, and that's the thing. Life is a journey, but our spiritual life is also a journey. And it makes no difference, truthfully, where you end up making your connectedness spiritually. The important part of it is that you make your connectedness in a way that resonates with you, that your heart and your beingness knows, and it gets to that point of knowingness that you're right where you belong. And if that happens to be in New Thought, religious science, there's a lot of good that's here. Oftentimes we struggle and we wonder why. You know, oftentimes the response from people within the philosophy is, well, you just aren't enough, whatever that means. You're not good enough, you don't believe enough, or whatever. But that's kind of a simplistic way of looking at things. When a young person decides to participate in, whether it's playing an instrument or playing a sport, and they make their first attempts, and usually they're not too coordinated. The horn squeaks, the guitar chords are terrible, and the piano clanks, or the pitcher throws the ball over the umpire's head, whatever it is. We don't criticize them. We don't criticize people when they're beginning something because they don't have the skill to do that. If that was a truth, and we held to that truth, Michael Jordan would have never been the man that he was in the field of basketball, because I believe it was in his 7th grade year, he didn't even make the basketball team. He wasn't good enough. Now, we can say, well, shame on him for not being good enough, or we can say, sometimes in order to achieve that which we want to achieve, we have to do what we need to do to make that achievement. And we don't criticize people in other parts of life when they do that, but it seems not uncommon sometimes, particularly in the New Thought field, that when someone fails to live up to New Thought principles, if you will, we look at them and go, well, you're just not enough. And maybe in some way that might be true, but more importantly, the potential is there. And the response shouldn't be that, we're not enough. The response should be that let's see how we can strengthen our path. Let's see how we can strengthen our journey. And, most of us can do that. And most of us conveniently manage to overlook the fact that we can do that. The current issue edition of The Science of Mind, I don't remember the exact sequence, but it goes something like a faith, a philosophy, a way of life. And we're going to talk about that today, the idea of faith and a philosophy, but more importantly, a way of life. A way of life is not a collection of intellectual knowledge. A way of life is a way of beingness, and it includes mindset, it includes activities, it includes what we choose to include and what we choose to exclude out of our day-to-day life experience. So that's what I want to talk about today, and actually I'm going to get to that through one of the prime things that we do, and that's something that we call spiritual mind healing, or affirmative prayer treatment, or just treatment for short, because therein lies the foundation, I think, for what Dr. Ernest Holmes taught when he was teaching this philosophy, this way of life. But doing a treatment is not just speaking words. We've got to come to it. Again, it's a way of life, and I've often said, and I don't remember if I've said it on the show, but I'll say it today if I haven't before, that a part of this journey is learning the skill, and it is a skill, and it's a skill that we can be subpar in. It's a skill that we can be average in. It's a skill that we can excel in, but it is a skill nonetheless. And for people that are in the religious science or New Thought community that are struggling, there's a couple things they can do. One, of course, is the work that they're going to do on themselves. But the other thing, and the beautiful thing about our community, is we have people that are called practitioners. And if we're not utilizing them, if we're not seeking them out and embodying them in our spiritual journey, it's like we're trying to run a 3-legged race on just one leg. A 3-legged race may be a little complicated, but one leg's not going to really get us anywhere, and we've got to know and we've got to understand that. So I'm going to refer back to, as I start today, this is the Science of Mind book, and it's Chapter 12, the summary of Part 2, which is Spiritual Mind Healing. Dr. Holmes writes that the possibility of spiritual mind healing, changing environment, controlling conditions, etc., through the power of right thinking, rests entirely upon the theory that we are surrounded by a universal mind which reacts to our thought, and always according to a law. Reacts to our thought. There's a minefield that we get entrapped in when we look at that, because we think, well, okay, Dr. Holmes teaches us that all thought is creative, and that's true. And that we can just think what we want, and the law of attraction will bring it forth. And I'm sorry to say that's not true. The law of attraction is a very important part of New Thought, Science of Mind. But as I shared with someone recently, the law of attraction is not the end-all, be-all of what we do. It's kind of like the creation of energy, our electrical energy. Electrical energy is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. We use it all day long. We don't even think about it. We use it so much. And yet, somehow it has to be generated and put into a form that we use. And that generation comes about as a result of something that's called the first law of thermodynamics, which says that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transmuted from or changed from one form to another. We can't create energy. We can't destroy it. But we can take what is and we can transform it. It's kind of like be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's that same type of thing. But in generating electricity, we have to understand that, let's say nuclear energy that creates electricity. We have to know the laws of the atomic laws that pertain to fission and how we use fission to create heat. We have to know thermodynamic laws to know how heat is transformed from this water that surrounds the nuclear generator to the superheated steam. The superheated steam is so hot that it's what they call a dry steam, and it has to be dry because it turns the blades of turbines and it can't have any moisture in it. But it has so much power, it turns these huge fan blades, and the fan blades in turn turn an electrical generator, and that's mechanical energy converted into electrical energy. Any place along the way, if something goes afoul, we're not going to get that electrical energy. But if we only look to the law of electrical production, electrical energy laws, we may miss where the problem is. Maybe it's mechanical, maybe it's thermodynamic, maybe it's nuclear. But we have to, if we want to generate this energy, or if we want to be creative in our life, we have to have a broader, more global understanding of what it is we use. And we start with Holmes's understanding that there is but one mind. That mind is God. That mind is our mind. It's something that we are not separate from. And it's important that we understand that we're not separate from it, because in truth that lays so much of the foundation as we move forward in our use of this whole concept of the creativeness of God, of spirit. I'm gonna speaking of separateness, I'm gonna take my first commercial break here, and I'll see you when we come back. We're gonna pick it up from that point.
Linda Lee Kane is an author of fantasies, thrillers, contemporary fiction, and children's books. Order a book by Linda Lee Kane on Amazon or on lindaleekane.com.
Hi, I am Bobby Bliatsu. I have lived in the Central Valley nearly all of my life. I am proud of our community, but believe we need better leadership in Washington, D.C., and believe health care is a basic need for families here in the Valley, and that's why I'm running for Congress. I've put together a website, bobbyforcongress.com, that explains more about my family story and my values. I hope to earn your support and your vote. Thank you.
Paid for and approved by Bobby for Congress Committee.
At Miracle Realty, we've been providing premier professional residential sales and property management in residential and commercial property for years. We manage single-family homes, condominiums, apartment buildings, commercial buildings, office space, and much more. No matter what experience level you have in property management, Miracle Realty strives to make your experience as stress-free as possible. Serving Madera and the surrounding areas, we use the latest technology and provide top-notch service. We're a trusted and reliable name in residential sales and property management, with the experience to answer any questions or complications that might come up. Give us a call today or visit us online for more information.
Discover retirement living the way it's meant to be and live your golden years to the fullest with Rose Meadow Manor. Rose Meadow Manor offers assisted living, memory, respite, and hospice care. To learn more, call 559-840-1991 and visit rosemeadowmanor.com. The Saga of Bridget and Amanda by Carol Love Forbes brings to life the struggles of historical women in early America. Find The Saga of Bridget and Amanda on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and order your copy today.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Fresno, California. And we're talking about taking this concept of universal laws and applying them to specifically our life experience and seeing an expression. First, I'm going to go back. There's a little book, and I think it's still in print. It's called Lessons in Spiritual Mind Healing by Ernest Holmes. And I just want to read you one little sentence out of here. And Holmes says, universal mind responds to each, and this response is measured by the individual's recognition of the universal. One more. The universal mind principle, being subjective, must mathematically reproduce for us the exact picture of our belief in it. We get caught up sometimes in thinking that it's our thoughts, our individual thoughts, that are so creative. And so when we want to make change in our life, we go to our individual thoughts. We think, okay, let's just take a car, for example. I see this car in my life, and I'm going to focus on this car. I'm going to see myself as owning this car, as this car being in my garage, and all this sort of stuff. And the car never shows up. Have you ever had one of those experiences? I don't think anybody that practices religious science hasn't had one or many of those experiences. And the truth is, there's so much more that we have to understand. And let's start with the understanding that there is but one universal infiniteness. We call it God, Spirit, George, whatever we want to call it. Goddess, doesn't make any difference, but there's just one. And our understanding of that one has to play out with an understanding that if there's only one, all that is, including us, you and I, we're all some aspect of that one. We're not one with, there's just one. And we are an aspect, an expression of that one expressing as us. Okay, that's fine and good, but my life's tough, and I'm experiencing a lot of toughness, and if I'm the divine principle expressing as me, what the heck is going on? Well, consciousness, an amazing thing. We all have it. We all experience it. We don't understand it really. But the thing about consciousness is, within us is our individuality. We have the ability to make choices. And what a great and powerful ability that is, to make choices. But oftentimes we make choices that aren't for our best of interest, and it happens. But you say, but I'm working only on the good choices. I'm working on keeping my mind in alignment with the law of attraction or whatever. But the law of attraction really it's kind of a specific function of a greater law, and that is the law of cause and effect. And there's one first cause, and that is universal intelligence, or that thing called life, or however you want to define it. There's one cause behind all things. But it doesn't, as it expresses in our life, it doesn't make a discernment of whether something is good for us or not good for us. And we can be blessed, or we can be, let's say, just kind of punished, or in a bad spot by our use of it. And most of the time, most people use it unconsciously. Life, amazing thing, life, but life is chaos. It surrounds us, it comes at us, it expresses in our moment-to-moment experience, and it moves on. And whatever happens has happened. And as it moves on, we can't go back and bring it back like we can, rewind well, I guess I'm dating myself, but, rewinding a videotape so that we can review it again. But what we can do is we can learn by it. And why is it important that we learn by it? It's important that we learn by it because life and the expression of life in a spiritual way, in a way that we can demonstrate goodness and positiveness in our life, is really a skill on some level that we have to learn. And that skill requires, it doesn't require us being like an overseer to what's going on in every moment of our thought. And yet, we got a lot of stuff going on. Depending on the source that you check, they say we think somewhere between 15 and 80,000 thoughts a day. Well, I don't know about you, but if I had 15 to 80,000 thoughts demonstrating in my life, the chaos that I live now would be substantially more chaotic. Truth be told, what does express in our life is a tendency or a trend. And it's a trend based on, almost very simplistically, are our thoughts generally of a positive nature, or are our thoughts generally of a less than positive nature? And as we hold that in consciousness, but not necessarily conscious consciousness, it's subconscious consciousness also, subjective consciousness, if you will. As we hold that in consciousness, that's where the production, the creative production, really takes place. So we decide, I've lived my life outside this particular philosophy, and so I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to go to Sinners on Sunday, and I'm going to celebrate, and I'm going to have a good time. And you know what? I think I'm even going to take a couple of classes so that I can put it into practice. And all of that is well and good, and I'm not making light of it. But more importantly is our desire and our commitment and our follow-through with how we begin to approach our day each and every day. You know, I talk about at the beginning of the show, did you wake up this morning and claim a great day? It's important. If you claim a great day and there's a little thought in your mind that says, yeah, but you've got X, Y, and Z to face today, then that's a clue. It's a clue that, okay, how am I going to face the whatever it is? Am I going to face it in fear, doubt, worry, or anger, or whatever it is? Or am I going to face it with the consciousness that whatever comes at me from life today, that I'm going to meet it head on? And it doesn't mean that when we meet something head on that we're not going to have things to do that maybe we wouldn't want to do, but when we meet it head on, and we get through it, we get to the other side of it, there's several things that happen. And you can refer back to a lot of psychology on this. That's nothing to do with science of mind. But when we meet obstacles and we work through them, we are strengthening our minds, we're strengthening our consciousness, but from an understanding of New Thought, religious science, we're strengthening our understanding of the spiritual expression of the divine principle through us. And that has nothing to do specifically with what we call spiritual mind healing, but it's very much an expression of spiritual mind healing. And this is why as we progress in our spiritual journey, understanding what this spiritual mind healing process is understanding, simplistically, it's, Reverend John E. Coleman used to teach that we have a bigger God than any problem. And that's a great affirmation. It really is. But if you just keep that between your ears, that's where it's going to stay. It's not going to express in your life. If you want to see that greater God expressed in your life, you've got to begin to embody the idea, the understanding, and have the faith in this greater God that's bigger than any problem that can come your way. Life's still going to bring tough stuff. We're still going to have things that we would rather not deal with, but that's life. We have the ability to express divine principle through us, but we're really not God. And God is the ultimate purveyor of all that is. But divine principle kind of just turns things loose, if you will, being rather simple in expressing this, and things evolve. that's how humanity got to the point where it is today. And some of you might believe that where humanity is today, it's not such a good thing. But I have a tendency to look back at history and see where people in the world were back in various other times. And we live a life expressed so much better today than ever before in history. Do we have problems? Yeah, we got problems. Do we have things we need to correct? Yeah, we got things we need to correct. But we have the capability and the ability to address issues that have hindered and dogged mankind since our inception, and we can overcome them. But the overcoming's got to be in consciousness, and it's got to be in our consciousness. So, when we look at New Thought, religious science, and we say very simplistically, well, it's all just the law of attraction. No, it's the law of cause and effect, of which the law of attraction is that ending aspect of it. Okay, that's the electrical generator of the electrical generation process that I shared earlier in the show. We have to bring ourselves into recognition that there is but one. It's done unto us as we believe, not done unto us as we think, or not done unto us as the knowledge that we can contain within our mind. It's done unto us as we believe. And we either believe it or we have something less than full belief. That's not damning, it's just what is. If I'm doing treatment and it's not expressing, that's not damning. It's not like I've done something wrong or should be held, accountable by some New Thought judgment or court. What I've done is I have worked at the highest level of my ability to express what I have, and maybe I've fallen short, but that's okay. What we do and what we need to do when we're dealing with ourselves, or possibly dealing with people, including ministers in our New Thought organizations, is not hold them accountable as if they've done something wrong, but encourage them in their practice, because that's where the growth takes place, and that's where the divine expression begins to move through them. And that's why Holmes so much in a lot of his writings talks about putting it into practice. I read a couple of shows back on, I'll just do it again because it's on my mind. It's the end of the general summary. It's on page 423, and it's entitled In Conclusion. He says, in conclusion, what the world needs is spiritual conviction followed by spiritual experience. I would rather see a student of this science prove its principles than to have him or her repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. And that's, my friends, that's it. It's in the practice, it's in the conviction, it's in the faith. As we believe, it's done unto us. If we're struggling, it's not that we're bad believers, it's just that, we've got to learn to change. Our beliefs are those things that we hold in our conscious mind and our subjective mind that define our understanding and what we perceive as reality to be. And I'm going to take this point to take my next break, and we're going to talk about defining and understanding reality when we come back. I'll see you then.
Let Senior Care Authority help you make the right choices for your loved one. Senior Care Authority will meet with you and provide guidance to help you find the best independent living, assisted living, or memory care, offering 6-bed home or large community. Senior Care Authority will help you navigate a complex healthcare system and ensure you get the proper care for your loved one, and the service is free. Visit seniorcare-fresno.com or call 559-900-2076. Vote for Miguel Arias for Fresno City Council in District 3. Over the last decade, Miguel has collaborated with residents, public institutions, and business leaders to improve public safety, increase education access and success, and increase workforce training and jobs. As Fresno City Councilman, Miguel Arias will build upon this track record of success. Learn more at miguelariasforcouncil.com.
This message is paid for and approved by Miguel Arias for Fresno City Council 2018.
Call Paul Bonander of Bonander Real Estate to buy this beautiful 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom home at 3486 Mecca Avenue in Clovis. Call 559-246-6731 for all your real estate needs. Voir dire, An Oath to Tell and Seek the Truth by Santiago Camarena, depicts the vicious cycle of drugs, crime, and incarceration. It argues that the media, politics, and our laws systematically contribute to this cycle. Get your copy of Voir Dire at voirdirestory.com. Connect with Dr. Alan Hedberg. Watch Doctor Teach Me to Parent on CentralValleyTalk.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Listen to The Psychology Report anytime at thepsychologyreport.buzzsprout.com. Visit booksbyhedberg.com and order a book for your personal growth. And join the conversation on twitter.com/Alan G. Hedberg.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back. It's New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Fresno, California. Anyway, I'm going to pick this up right here with conviction, because what I just read at the end of the general summary, as Holmes says, and this is on page 161 if you happen to have a copy of the textbook, he says, mental science does not deny the divinity of Jesus, but it does affirm that the divinity of all people. It does not deny that Jesus was the Son of God, but affirms that all men and women are sons and daughters of God. It does not deny the kingdom of God was revealed through Jesus, but it says that the kingdom of God is also revealed through you and me. But you got to know it. And you got to know it at a level of embodiment, knowing it, not between your ears knowing it. In other words, we can read the books, and the books are great, and there's a lot of good books out there, and they talk about a lot of good things, and people get all psyched up in the books, but they don't take the time to involve themselves in the process of learning the skill of the process, basically. What we want to do by spending time daily doing spiritual work, reading something that affirms our life, that's spiritual, meditating. Meditation, I talk about, it's so important. Science is telling us on so many different levels how meditation works, even if you don't believe in a divine principle. It doesn't make any difference. Meditation will help with health, with mental health, and so many other things. But when you approach that with a goal of opening yourself up to understanding a greater expression of divine principle in your life, not in somebody else's life, but just in your life, you'd be surprised what's going to come through, and it will. Now, you may have to work at it. Again, if you go to play baseball and you can't hit the ball your first time at bat, do you walk off the field? If you pick up the guitar and it sounds terrible, do you put it down and never come back? Meditation is another one of those skills that through practice and practice and practice, we begin to improve our skill and our ability to utilize it. Something as simple as daily affirmations is a skill, actually. Well, you say, well, it's just saying things. No, it's not just saying things. It's a matter of saying things consistently throughout the week, particular times when they're going to be most effective. But as we say them, maybe in the beginning, when we start saying them, we don't believe them. Maybe we just think, okay, they're words. But the skill is in learning to embody the power that those words bring as we begin to look at those affirmations as something that creates within our life as we shape our trend of thinking, not just the one or two thoughts, but our trend of thinking in alignment with the affirmations that we make. It's very powerful, very, very good. Journaling is another one of those things. All those things and daily prayer treatment. All those things are things that we get better at as we do it. That's what human beings do. We get better. We get better at anything that we do when we practice doing it. And we get people that think, okay, just because I can use the law of attraction, that I can have whatever I want, I can experience, and it just doesn't work that way. It's like, okay, all I got to do is have electricity and I've got lights and I got my computer and all this stuff, but if you don't have what it takes to get the electricity to you in the first place, it's just not going to work. You can have the biggest, greatest computer in the world, you can have all sorts of wonderful toys that run off electricity, it's not going to happen. If you can't get the electrical wiring to work in your vehicle, you're never going to go anywhere, because it needs the production of electricity to whether you've got an electric vehicle or whether you've got a gas vehicle. The electrical energy that exists and is utilized within it is important in order for it to fully function. And the idea of this commitment to practice creating, and here's the thing, and this is something that we now know with the understanding of neuroscience, as we daily practice our spiritual practices, we are actually rewiring our brain. We're bringing in greater numbers of nerve connections and greater skills, faster pathways. There's something called fasciculation, and it has to do with the speed of transport of impulse along a nerve. The more often that we do a particular thing, the faster the speed gets. Neuroplasticity, things, new connections, cells change, all sorts of crazy stuff. But it all happens because of what we are working on consistently in our conscious portion of our day-to-day life. Having said that, we also have to understand that there are things that we hold. Now, it's kind of murky here when we talk about whether we're talking about race consciousness or what Carl Jung called the collective unconsciousness or the shadow or beliefs that we hold in the subjective mind that we're not aware that we hold. You know, nobody likes to think that we have things within us that aren't positive. I mean, we like to think we're positive, good people. We like to think we're good people. But there's enough research out there that'll prove that we all have within us the ability to do some really not so good things, given the circumstances. And I can remember reading about it years ago when they had subjects come in and they administered an electrical shock to someone that was supposed to be doing something. Now, what the individual that was administering the shock didn't know was that the person that was supposed to be doing something was instructed not to do it or to do it incorrectly. The levels of electrical shock that ultimately were administered were catastrophic, and yet the people did it, and they didn't think that they were bad people. As a matter of fact, the fallout of, I believe, those particular research events, that there was some change in the way the rules that universities do research, because the people that ultimately came face to face with the reality that they had that within them caused catastrophic issues for themselves. So we don't need to go there. We just need to know that somewhere there lurks within us things that are not necessarily life-affirming or supportive. And within those things are a lot of things that we picked up growing up. You know, we're not good enough, you're a klutz, you're stupid, you're this, you're that. Doesn't make any difference what it is, but we hold it in there, and darn if it doesn't come to play at some point in our life, and sometimes at the most inopportune moments, and we go, wow, where did that come from? Well, that's where it came from. Now, we don't have to know, we don't have to spend years in psychoanalysis to figure out what that stuff is. All we have to do is know that we can make changes for good within ourselves and in our subjective mind by continuously, daily practicing, putting this philosophy into practice, making it our way of life. And that's really what we're seeking to do, is to make it a way of life. That doesn't mean we walk around, like we're in robes and hanging out at airports or whatever, and trying to get converts. That's not what it's about. What it's about, and Joel Goldsmith put it very, very succinctly. He said, "We practice the presence of God." Well, how do you practice the presence of God? What you do is you consciously seek to see the divine in all that is. That can be kind of tough. You watched the news last night. You saw what those people were doing. Those are bad people. We need to think bad things about them, right? No, we don't. And you'd be far better off if you didn't watch the news. And that doesn't mean that we have to be ignorant of what's going on in the world, but what it does mean is we need to be responsible for what we subject our mind to. Those people, whoever those people are, whether it's family or societally or politically or nationally, doesn't make any difference. We practice the presence of God. Where's that place that God is not? It's not them. God is there. Well, I don't like what I see there. Understood. We don't have to like what somebody's doing. We don't have to accept bad behavior. society has laws and that protect people from people that express bad behavior. But the individual, that individual is still the divine principle expressing as them. They may be broken. They may have some issues. They may be, they may be salvageable as human beings, or they may not. They may have to be separated from society. But it doesn't change the fact that they are still God expressing as them. But we know in the expression of God that not everything that we see comes out exactly as it should be. We have physical disabilities, birth defects. We have mental disabilities that are a result of, various accidents or birth defects or whatever. Is that our challenge, to recognize that and bring a caring, loving consciousness to it? Could be. It could be a lot of different things. But I'll tell you what it's not. It's not God expressing any less than what God expresses. The fact that we don't necessarily understand it doesn't change the fact that if you ascribe to the belief that God is all there is, then God is all there is. Now, I said that because when we seek to consciously create in our life, one, we can't come to it from just an instant of, okay, I'm going to do it now. It requires that we begin to create a consciousness, to embody within ourself an understanding of love, love at a divine level. Love is a principle that expresses through each and every being, even if we don't understand that expression, and bring ourselves into alignment with principle. And then as we begin to work on creating treatment and doing treatment in our life, to the degree that we have built up our faith through practice, to the degree that we have built up our belief through practice, through the various things that we do, to the degree that we can embody the words as we speak them in our treatment, to that degree, there's a response that takes place. That's what Ernest Holmes taught. Sometimes we don't see that so much today. It gets lost in the day-to-day stuff. But primarily Ernest Holmes, he didn't teach a religion, he taught a practice. And the practice he taught was the practice of affirming, creating, and putting into practice the principles that ultimately became the science of mind, or principles that are taught today in various New Thought organizations. My personal belief, and it's my show, so I can share my personal belief, is I think to a great extent our focus in the New Thought community has kind of shifted from the basic principles. I mean, look, come on, let's face it. Basic principles can be boring, right? I mean, there's new, more exciting, sexier things out there in the spiritual world that we can embody, and maybe there is. But I have to say, and I am old school, and if you haven't got that from watching the show, I am old school. I stick pretty much to straight religious science principles, and the reason why I do is because when you embody those principles and you put them into practice, they work at the level of your understanding and belief, and as you believe, it's done unto you. And that doesn't mean that I'm all encompassing in my ability to be a practitioner, but I am a practitioner first, and I teach what I share, what I understand, what I know. I can't say that I'm always able to see the truth that I need to see in my practitioner work, but I work at it. And I see people that do work at it, and I see that they're successful. So I know that success is out there for me. And I also know that success is out there for you. This is an exciting, for me, it's an exciting philosophy. It's an exciting proposition to be in a point where you can demonstrate in your life. But it requires a commitment on many different levels. Personal responsibility to creating within yourself a connectedness with that which you call spirit or God. Without that connectedness, you're just somebody speaking words. You need to spend the time to do what it takes to create the ability within yourself to do that. But if you're at this place in your spiritual experience right now that you're not able to, that's what practitioners are for. And if you belong to any spiritual CSL center or religious science center or Anton Center or even independent centers, there's practitioners available to you. Take the time and utilize them. Put them to practice in your life. You're doing a couple things. One, you're bringing in kind of a help, but two, as you experience someone being a practitioner for you, you get the experience of seeing how it works in a way that you can't understand if you're an outsider. And seeing it work through someone else for you in your life, and you see that demonstration, it opens doors within your own mind as long as you continue to work the program. There's a catchphrase that says you work if you work it, and it really is true. I'm going to take my next break now, and I'll see you when we come back, and we'll wrap this up.
Looking to remodel your home? Contact Max Meza, owner of Precise Construction. Max is the contractor with a heart who will make sure the job is done right and you're happy with the end result. Need something repaired? Call Precise Construction at 559-477-3899 or email constructionprecise76@gmail.com. Lease or buy this modern 2-story Spanish-style building with private offices, open workspace, 2 restrooms, and a break room. This commercial office building is located at 10 East Olive in the Tower District. The floor plan is designed for easy conversion, and all interior walls are movable. Parking available in the rear in a fence-secure lot. Call Mike Briggs Properties at 559-486-6758 or visit MikeBriggsProperties.com. The Narrow Gauge Inn is your home away from home with 26 rooms offering majestic mountain views, private decks, and an atmosphere of true relaxation. Located just 4 miles from the south entrance to Yosemite National Park, the Narrow Gauge Inn is the perfect base for all your Yosemite adventures. Make your reservation now at narrowgaugeinn.com or call 559-683-7720.
I'm Greg Steen, your host for the Truth for Seniors show. Glad you're joining us today and coming to you from Central Valley Talk in the heart of Fresno. So every Wednesday at 2 you can find us, and we'll be here giving you the most up-to-date and accurate information possible, bringing you experts, as we promised, from lots of different fields related to seniors, senior needs, caregiver needs, and everything that goes with that. So if you're looking for the right information and timely information, this is the place to be.
This segment is brought to you by Mike Briggs Properties. The recession's over. It's now safe to sell your home. Call Mike Briggs Properties.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Linda Lee Kane is
Welcome to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from Spiritual Awareness Center located in Fresno, California, and I'm looking at the chaos that sits before me that I was hoping to create order out of during this time together, but the shows just move so fast. There's so much more I got to cover, but we're going to have more shows, so we'll get it covered. But in New Thought, we fill ourselves, and if you go to Facebook, you'll see all these really neat little catchphrases that people kind of it makes them feel good. It's kind of warm and fuzzy, and sometimes I think we live in a bubble of those catchphrases in our warm and fuzziness. Life comes at us at the speed of life, and it brings with it whatever it brings. If you happen to be in Louisiana and the hurricane comes through, you're in Louisiana and the hurricane came through. You're not responsible for it. You're not the cause of it, but you're in that place. Life has happened. The greater our foundation, our spiritual foundation, the better our ability to express God's love, God's givingness, God's creativeness, no matter what life brings to us. And that's the ultimate bottom line for me in what I teach. And we've gotten to a point at the Spiritual Awareness Center where that's what our Sundays are all about. We teach science of mind. That's not saying that it's better or anything else. It's just I've spent the entire first half of this year going over with our people the total embodiment, if you will, of spiritual mind healing, spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer treatment, taking and going into great depth about our individual, where we're at in our hearts and our minds and our understanding. You don't have to be a genius, but you have to be involved in your heart. You have to be involved in an embodied way. And when you do that, you know, Michael Jordan practiced that year that he was not accepted on the basketball team. He practiced like a madman, but what he did in that year is he developed a habit of practice. And he practiced and he practiced and he practiced. And today he's considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time. You know, I believe personally that there was a time in religious science when our practitioners practiced a whole lot more than they do now. And I'm not casting dispersions on anything in particular. It's just from my own perspective, I see people complaining about religious science not producing or whatever, and it's not the fault of the philosophy. It's the individuals that fail to practice that claim it as a philosophy. It is a way of life. And I point that out only because if you're watching this today or at some other time, put it into practice. Put it into practice and put it into practice and continually put it into practice. And you know what? You're going to have some disappointments, but you'll transcend them. You're going to have some successes, and you will celebrate them. You will begin to, as an individual expression of divine principle, you will begin to experience life as you were created to experience life. It's knowing the truth of who you are. You know the truth, and the truth will ultimately set you free. But knowing the truth is embodied in the mastery or the journey of putting the truth principles into practice in your life. It's just we've seen it, I've seen it, I've experienced it, I teach it, I want to see it in you. My goal is to change the world, not by going out and telling people how to change, not by telling people what they've got to do to make the world a better place. My goal is to change the world by helping you through your own work change your life for something better. And it starts with belief, it starts with faith, it starts with practice, it starts with commitment, it starts with us as individuals going within ourselves and finding the truth that's there. And if we can't do it the first time or the second time or the 10th time, going back again and again and again. And speaking our word, as Holmes said, we speak our word, understanding that as we speak our word, there is power in our word. There is power in thought, creative power in thought. But it's not the single thought. It's not that singular word that's spoken out in the middle of the desert. Although if you've got the belief behind it, maybe for you it works. We can't discount anything, and I'm not attempting to discount anything. I'm just sharing my personal concept and understanding. And I hope that, you know, if you are a practitioner or you are someone that is involved with religious science or New Thought on any level, that you spend some time every day. Go back to the books. Go back to yourself. Go back to the God that lives within you. Go back to your daily affirmative prayer work. Go back to your daily affirmations. Pick it up. Put it into practice. The world needs you. The world needs a better world. And that was the one thing that Ernest Holmes, I think, believed more than anything else about what he taught, was that there would come a time, there'll come a day when people put this into practice in their lives at such a level that the world will change. And he wasn't about going out and telling everybody they got to be, you know, believers in religious science or New Thought. He was just talking to people and showing them how they could increase the light that lives within them so that it shines ever brighter. And as we do that for ourselves, People will sit up. They'll be aware. They'll take note. They'll want to know what's going on. You know, as you practice this in your life and you begin to intentionally and consciously put it into practice, and you do daily affirmations and you do daily affirmative prayer treatment, and you see demonstrations take place in your life will change. Things are going to happen. Sometimes it's going to be tough because life is what it is. But you know what? As you begin to embody this philosophy, one of the things that I learned from reading Christian Larson is there's good in everything, no matter how dark it may be, no matter how sad we may see it. If we understand the good, if we look for the good, if we have a habit of seeing good in all that is, if we practice the presence of God in all that we do, we're going to see God there. We'll see the good. Doesn't mean that we won't hurt with the hurt, but we will transcend it, we will move on, and it will be a better world. And that's my thought for today, folks. I got more coming. We'll see you next week. Thank you for being with us. As you go through the week, know that the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is there. All is well. See you next week, my friends. Keep up the good work and the practice, and so it is.
CentralValleyTalk.com